Picture this. You're standing right on the banks of the Mara River in East Africa. The water is, well, it's murky, like this thick, muddy mirror, reflecting an unforgiving midday sun.
Right, and the air is it's incredibly heavy, oppressively hot.
Exactly. It's eerily, terrifyingly quiet. But caught in the rotting wood and vegetation near the shoreline is a crime scene that, honestly, it defies basic biology.
It really does. It's something you just don't expect to see in the wild.
Because floating right there in the shallows is a 4-meter-long Nile crocodile. We are talking about a literal dinosaur here.
Yeah, a heavily armored apex predator, a species that survived the global extinction event that wiped out the T-Rex.
Right, but this one is dead. And it didn't die of old age, and it didn't starve either. Its body is folded into this grotesque, completely unnatural L shape.
Which is jarring. I mean, just visually, it's wrong.
Completely wrong. Its spine hasn't just been broken, it has been completely obliterated, snapped like a dry twig under a giant's boot.
Which, presents a profound biological impossibility, at least if you're approaching it from a standard anatomical perspective.
Because reptiles of that sheer mass shouldn't been that way, right?
Exactly. With that specific kind of evolutionary structural integrity, they do not simply fold in half. It takes an immense, almost unimaginable amount of localized force.
Well, welcome to this deep dive, where we are investigating a brutal biological murder mystery straight from the African wilderness.
It's a fascinating one, too.
It really is. We're going to unpack the forensics of this event because to understand just how shocking this crime scene is, if it's armored back from the inside.
Yes. And the osteoderms are meant to repel attacks from the outside, but they offer absolutely no defense against internal pressure.
That is terrifying.
The hippo just continues to apply that 1,800 psi of bite force, so this ceases to be a biological struggle and becomes a brutal lesson in structural engineering.
What do you mean?
Imagine a rigid, heavily armored bridge. The crocodile's back is that bridge. Now, apply massive, concentrated hydraulic pressure directly to the center statue.
And the physical defenses are, well, they're even more formidable. The crocodile is covered in this composite armor of scales.
Scales reinforced with really thick, interlocking bony plates. We call them osteoderms.
Osteoderms. And this is biological armor plating so rigid and tough that literally spears thrown by local tribesmen will just bounce right off it.
Oh, absolutely. It's a primary reason why humans without heavy modern equipment anyway, actively avoid these waters. You don't mess with that armor.
And on top of being an armored tank, it's packing the ultimate biological weapon. I mean, it commands the strongest bite force of any living terrestrial animal.
Yeah, the jaw strength is just off the charts.
When those jaws snap shut, the titanic pressure can pulverize a thick buffalo skull, or, crush a turtle shell like it's a wet piece of cardboard.
So in the Mara River ecosystem, the crocodile represents the absolute rule of law. It is the top of the food chain.
It's the reason a pride of 30 thirsty, muscular lions will pace nervously and actually hesitate before attempting to cross the water.
They know better.
They really do. Which sets up the ultimate forensic puzzle for us today. If this animal is the supreme, untouchable dictator of the river, who or what has the sheer physical power to execute it so violently?
Well, to figure that out, we have to treat the riverbank exactly like a crime scene.
Right. Process the evidence.
Exactly. We need to systematically rule out the usual suspects that you naturally picture when you imagine an animal capable of snapping a 4-meter dinosaur in half.
So my mind immediately goes to the true heavyweights of the savannah. Like, was it a furious elephant?
That's usually everyone's first guess.
I mean, they easily have the tonnage, right? And they certainly have the temper when they are provoked or if they're protecting a calf.
Oh, an angry elephant is a terrifying force.
Right. So I could easily picture an elephant catching this croc slipping on the muddy bank and just, boom, bringing a massive foot down on his spine.
It's a logical theory, but the forensics simply don't support an elephant strike.
Really? Why not?
First, we have to look at the surrounding environment. There are no massive flat crush patterns on the crocodile's armor that would be indicative of a footfall.
Ah, so no giant footprint dent.
Exactly. And there are absolutely no stomp marks or signs of a terrestrial struggle in the surrounding mud.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
An elephant would leave a mess.
A huge mess. But more importantly, this carcass was found floating in deep water. Elephants will aggressively defend themselves on a shoreline shore.
But they aren't, diving in.
Right. They aren't diving into the deep, murky channels to execute a submerged crocodile. It just doesn't fit their behavioral profile.
Okay, so we rule out a terrestrial stomp. What about a turf war? What about an even bigger, older crocodile?
A rival male.
Yeah, we know they are intensely territorial, especially those massive dominant males. Couldn't a bigger croc just bite it in half?
Well, the mechanics of crocodile combat rule that out entirely, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when crocodiles fight each other, they physically do not have the anatomical capability to deliver this specific, localized spinal injury.
Because of how their mouths work.
Precisely. They do battle by grabbing hold of an opponent and executing a death roll, spinning rapidly in the water to generate rotational torque.
Right, the death roll. I've seen videos of that. It's brutal.
It is, but that torque is designed to rip off limbs or tear away loose chunks of flesh. They physically lack the vertical jaw mechanics to open wide enough for a giant spine.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, they can't open wide enough and bite down hard enough to crush the thickest, most heavily armored part of a rival's spine with a single, clean, vertical bite.
Because their snouts are too long and flat.
Exactly. Their snouts are designed for grabbing and holding, not for concentrated spinal crushing.
Okay, so if we eliminate blunt force from above, like an elephant stomp, and we eliminate rotational torque from the side from another croc, we're left with a highly specific mechanical failure.
A very specific one, yes.
Something had to physically clamp down on this massive animal from above and below simultaneously, with enough concentrated pressure to crush a dinosaur.
Right.
What leaves that kind of forensic signature?
Well, the autopsy of the carcass provides the chilling answer. When the crocodile's body was examined, the fatal clues were uncovered.
What did they find?
Deep, incredibly thick puncture wounds located directly around the break in the spine.
Puncture wounds, so it was bitten.
Yes, but these weren't the messy, tearing cuts you would expect from a carnivore's serrated teeth. They were massive cylindrical holes.
Wow.
Driven deep into the crocodile's internal cavity, almost like it had been violently impaled by giant wooden stakes.
Giant wooden stakes. And this is the moment the mystery takes a turn into the bizarre for me.
Oh, it gets so weird here.
Because the creature responsible for this brutal, targeted execution, the animal that left those massive cylindrical holes, is a creature that currently decorates children's pajamas.
Yep.
It's in cartoon shows and stuffed animal aisles globally. The apex predator of the Mara River was snapped in half by a hippopotamus.
A hippo.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around the physics and the psychology of that.
It's definitely a shock to most people.
Like, how does an animal globally famous for being a slow, cute, grass-eating herbivore commit a brutal, premeditated murder against a 4-meter armored carnivore?
Well, context is the key to unlocking the psychology here. We have to look at the environment itself.
The Mara River.
Right. The Mara River, which acts as this vital artery along the border of Kenya and Tanzania, is basically an environmental pressure cooker.
And that pressure reaches an absolute boiling point during the dry season, right?
Exactly. The dry season fundamentally changes the geography of the area. It goes from this lush, flowing, massive highway of water down to just a series of puddles.
Disconnected, claustrophobic, incredibly fetid mud pools.
Yeah, the water literally evaporates and the real estate simply vanishes. Space becomes the ultimate life or death currency.
So everyone's just crammed together.
Crammed together, hot and irritable. When that water recedes under the blistering African sun, you suddenly have these massive, incredibly dangerous titans of the animal kingdom forced to live shoulder to shoulder.
In overcrowded puddles, the tension must be palpable.
Oh, it is. The usual Cold War dynamic between species where, crocodiles and hippos maintain a respectful, fearful distance from one another starts to aggressively break down.
Which completely shatters the popular perception of the hippo. I mean, they are not gentle giants lounging lazily in the water to beat the heat.
Not even close.
They are 3-ton organic war machines fueled by an absolute, uncompromising territoriality.
That's the perfect way to describe them. The social structure of hippos is entirely ruled by dominant males, and they operate as absolute dictators over their specific, shrinking stretches of the river.
So they just claim a puddle and dare anyone to enter.
Exactly. They guard their harems of females and their young calves with lethal, hyper-aggressive jealousy. To a dominant male hippo, that specific mud pool isn't just a habitat.
Right.
It is his entire identity and domain. Any perceived invasion by any creature is treated as a direct act of war.
Which casts this dead crocodile in a completely different light. Like this wasn't a hunt.
No, not at all.
The hippo didn't kill the croc to eat it. I mean, it's a grass eater. So this was a political execution.
That's a great analogy.
It's the biological equivalent of a mafia boss leaving a severed horse head in a rival's bed. It has nothing to do with sustenance.
Right, it's entirely about sending a terrifying, undeniable message to every other living thing in that shrinking pool. Stay out.
But usually, don't crocodiles and hippos maintain a tense truce?
They do. It's a truce based on mutual pragmatic fear. The hippos know a large crocodile will happily drag a baby hippo underwater if given the chance.
And the crocodiles know better than to test the wrath of a healthy adult hippo.
Normally, yes. But in this specific incident from the 2020 rye season, that ancient protocol was completely shattered.
It sounds like the ultimate fatal miscalculation.
It really was. In the cramped, muddy quarters of a shrinking pool, a confident, heavily armored crocodile likely bumped into a hippo calf.
Just accidentally got too close.
Probably. And instead of retreating into the deeper water, the croc relied on its apex status. It probably sibilated, letting out that deep, terrifying reptilian hiss.
Oh, wow.
And it opened its massive jaws as a warning for the hippo to back off.
And you simply do not threaten a hippo, you run from it.
Exactly. The crocodile forgot that while it might be the undisputed king of the carnivores, it does not own the pool.
Right, the hierarchy in the Mara River isn't based on who has the sharpest teeth or who eats meat.
No, it's based on sheer tonnage and a deeply volatile temperament.
So the motive makes perfect sense. The hippo was provoked, it felt its territory and calf were threatened, and it snapped.
Pure rage.
But the physical execution is what still completely baffles me. How does a grass eater physically break a 4-meter reptile in half?
It comes down to a terrifying set of biomechanical secret weapons hidden inside the hippo's skull.
Secret weapons?
Yeah, the anatomy of a hippo's jaw operates on a devastating, highly specialized lever system. Unlike most mammals, the articulation of a hippo's jaw allows it to unhinge.
Unhinge, like a snake.
Sort of, but way more powerful. It can open its mouth almost 180 degrees.
180 degrees. That is a geometric nightmare.
It really is.
It's basically folding its face open to create a giant, gaping cavern.
And it does that as a visual threat display, sure, but it's also setting a massive mechanical trap, because inside that cavern are the real instruments of terror.
The tusks.
Yes, they're canine teeth. These are not flat, grinding teeth designed for chewing grass. They are solid, ivory combat tusks that can grow up to 50 centimeters long.
50 centimeters. That's basically half a meter of ivory. But wait, let's look at the math on this for a second.
Okay.
50 centimeters of ivory is huge. But we established earlier that the crocodile has the strongest bite force on the planet.
Right, it does.
So if the hippo comes charging in with its mouth wide open, why wouldn't the crocodile just bite back? Like, why not just snap its own jaws shut and crush the hippo's snout before it can do any damage?
That points to a fascinating but fatal biological asymmetry between these two animals.
Asymmetry? How so?
Well, a crocodile's bite is titanically strong when closing. The muscles designed to snap those jaws shut are incredibly massive.
Because they evolved over millions of years to grab large prey and pull it underwater.
Exactly. However, the muscles used to open a crocodile's mouth are shockingly weak.
Oh wait, I think I've seen this. I've seen wildlife rangers handle massive crocs by just wrapping a few layers of duct tape around their snouts.
Yes, that's exactly it.
And the animal can't even open its mouth to fight back because the opening muscles are so feeble.
Exactly the point. The crocodile is highly specialized in one single direction, biting down. The hippo, on the other hand, is built like an industrial hydraulic press in both directions.
Wow.
It bites down with a force of roughly 1,800 pounds per square inch.
1,800 psi. That's insane.
And those 50-centimeter ivory tusks have an even more terrifying evolutionary feature. They are self-sharpening.
Wait, what? How does an animal self-sharpen its own teeth?
Well, every single time the hippo opens and closes its mouth, the lower and upper canines actively grind against each other.
Just natural.
Naturally. This constant lifetime friction maintains a perpetual razor-sharp cutting edge on the ivory. They are literal daggers ready for war at all times.
Okay, so let's put these two biomechanical systems into that mud pool and walk through the physics of the fight, step by step.
Let's do it.
The tension breaks. The croc hisses at the baby. The dictator hippo snaps. It charges. But it doesn't just clumsily wade through the mud, right?
No, not at all. Despite weighing 3 tons, hippos propel themselves through the water with the unexpected, terrifying agility of a dolphin.
It's a 3-ton dolphin.
Yeah, they displace massive amounts of water and move with incredible speed. The hippo closes the distance in seconds.
And the crocodile instantly realizes its miscalculation.
It realizes it messed up big time.
It tries to pivot, right? Trying to whip its powerful tail to propel itself away. But in these shrinking dry season pools, there simply isn't enough clearance.
The evasion tactic completely fails. It's cornered.
So the croc is forced to defend itself. It lunges to bite the hippo's massive snout. But with the hippo's sheer momentum and water displacement, the strike misses.
And that's when the hippo strikes. Its jaws, unhinged a full 180 degrees, come crashing down like a garage door.
Boom.
It bypasses the thicker armor on the crocodile's back entirely and targets the midsection, clamping onto the slightly softer underbelly.
And here's where the devastating mechanics of the murder occur.
Yes. Those 50-centimeter self-sharpened bottom daggers easily pierce right through the soft belly of the reptile.
Just punching right through.
They puncture the vital organs, pushing all the way up through the internal cavity until they hit the underside of the rigid top armor.
The osteoderms.
The osteoderms, exactly.
So the ivory tusks are literally trapped inside the crocodile's body, pushing upward against the roof of its armored back from the inside.
Yes. And the osteoderms are meant to repel attacks from the outside, but they offer absolutely no defense against internal pressure.
That is terrifying.
The hippo just continues to apply that 1800 psi of bite force, so this ceases to be a biological struggle and becomes a brutal lesson in structural engineering.
What do you mean?
Imagine a rigid, heavily armored bridge. The crocodile's back is that bridge. Now, apply massive, concentrated hydraulic pressure directly to the center of that bridge, from the bottom up.
With absolutely no support beneath the ends.
Exactly.
The bridge is designed to hold weight pushing down, not a concentrated spike pushing up. It has to fail.
And the structural integrity gives out in an instant. C-R-A-A-C. The massive spine violently snaps under the immense upward pressure of the bottom tusks and the downward crushing pressure of the hippo's upper jaw.
Just game over.
Yeah.
In a fraction of a second, the supreme apex predator of the river, an armored tank that survived the dinosaurs, is instantly paralyzed.
Reduced to a broken L shape in the mud.
So after utilizing all that force, what does the hippo do with its prize? Does it drag it away?
It displays the ultimate disrespect, honestly. The hippo has absolutely no biological interest in meat.
Right, because it's an herbivore.
Exactly. It simply opens its massive jaws, disengages the tusks, drops the dying carcass back into the murky water, and calmly submerges.
Just walks away.
Its eyes return to that deceptive, placid stare as if absolutely nothing happened. The territorial threat was eliminated. The message has been delivered.
Wow. Nature just doesn't care that this animal was a king yesterday. Today it's just organic matter floating in the shallows.
It's ruthless.
It will likely get scavenged by birds of prey, fish, and, in a deeply dark twist, even cannibalized by other crocodiles.
Which happens quite a lot. It's a brutal, unsentimental reality out there.
It really is.
But, if we pull back from this specific event in the Mara River, it raises a critical point about the profound danger of projecting human emotions onto the animal kingdom.
Oh, absolutely, because a hippo's uncompromising territorial aggression isn't just reserved for reptiles.
No, not at all. There is a terrifying statistic that completely shifts the perspective on this animal.
Which is?
The hippopotamus kills more humans in Africa than lions, leopards, and sharks combined.
Combined. That's a staggering metric.
By a massive, undeniable margin. And it happens primarily because of how the hippo views its territory and how humans fundamentally misunderstand the hippo.
Just like the crocodile in the mud pool.
Exactly like the crocodile. Human beings constantly invade the hippo's space without realizing they are crossing invisible, lethal boundaries.
It's a fatal psychological flaw we have as a species. We suffer from extreme anthropomorphism.
We really do.
We see a hippo yawning in the water. We associate it with a cartoon character. We think, oh, look at the cute, chubby grass eater cooling off.
And we completely miss the fact that we're looking at a 3-ton war machine actively displaying its combat tusks.
Right. A yawn isn't a yawn, it's a threat.
Exactly. Local communities and seasoned fishermen know the danger well. But tourists, amateur photographers, or inexperienced boaters often don't.
And that's when tragedies happen.
Hippos will actively chase down and destroy fishing boats and motorized skiffs because the noise of the engine and the physical presence of the hull are viewed as a direct challenge to the dominant male's territory.
They just attack the boats.
They will capsize a boat with ease and crush whoever falls into the water. Ironically, by aggressively defending their territory from human boats, hippos end up providing fresh human meat for the river's crocodiles as a byproduct of their rage.
That is just incredibly grim. But if you are listening to this and thinking, well, the obvious solution is to just stay on the land and observe from the bank, you are still underestimating the threat.
Oh, big time.
because a 3-ton hippo can launch itself out of the water and run at speeds of up to 50 kilometers per hour on dry land.
50 kilometers per hour. Just think about that. That is faster than Usain Bolt at his absolute peak.
You cannot outrun it. Even if the hippo doesn't use its jaws to bite you, a physical collision with a 3-ton mass moving at 50 kilometers per hour is instantly fatal.
It's the biological equivalent of getting hit by a truck on the highway.
Which is why the respect for these animals and the environments they control must be absolute. The hierarchy of the wild is rarely what it seems on the surface.
It really isn't. Appearances are wildly deceiving.
So as we pull all these fascinating threads together, what is the core realization we walk away with?
I think it comes down to redefining power in nature.
Right. In the brutal, unforgiving arena of nature, survival isn't just about having the thickest armor or the sharpest teeth or carrying the title of a carnivorous predator.
No. Sometimes the most lethal force in the ecosystem is sheer mass, mechanical leverage, and uncompromising territorial rage.
The actionable takeaway here for you listening is to constantly question the comforting, popular narratives you've been fed.
Absolutely. Pop culture has done a phenomenal job of painting hippos as clumsy, lovable oafs and crocodiles as unstoppable, villainous monsters.
But biological reality proves that the hippo is an absolute war machine.
Whenever you engage with nature, you have to respect the hidden hierarchies. Look for the invisible rules rather than relying on superficial appearances.
Because the creature that seems quiet and lumbering might actually be the one holding all the power.
Exactly.
Respecting the hidden hierarchy is a brilliant way to frame it. But before we wrap up this biological autopsy, there is one final, provocative thought to leave you with.
Okay, I'm ready.
It's a hypothetical that fundamentally challenges everything we just discussed. We know exactly how this massacre played out in the claustrophobic mud pools of the Mara River.
We do.
We know the hippo's dolphin-like aquatic agility allowed it to close the distance, corner the crocodile, and deliver the fatal strike.
The aquatic environment heavily favored the hippo's mechanics. It gave it the upper hand.
But what if this exact same duel happened entirely on dry land?
Oh, wow.
If you strip away the deep water, if you take away the hippo's ability to displace water and swim with that terrifying speed, would that 4-meter, heavily armored crocodile have enough time and space to use its powerful tail and escape?
That's a fascinating question.
Or would the sheer unhinging 180-degree jaw and the 1800 psi bite force result in the exact same brutal outcome? Would we still find that ancient dinosaur folded into a broken L shape in the dirt, or would the king of the river survive?
Removing the water entirely changes the physics, the speed, and the evasion capabilities of both animals.
It fundamentally changes the equation, and it's something for you to chew on until next time. Keep questioning the obvious, look past the cartoons, and always respect the giants of the river.